of so many world economies, particularly the Japanese and the European and even the Russian economies, that oil demand is not going to be particularly robust this year.
Until then, the market is no doubt hoping for colder and messier weather, which could trip up travelers but push prices higher. Maria Bartiromo, CNBC, New York.
And taking a look at those crude oil prices, a little bit of a pullback on profit-taking. Light sweet crude at the NYMEX for March delivery losing 23 cents a barrel to $14.96 a barrel. Brent North Sea crude also for March delivery weaker by 26 cents to $13.83 per barrel.
Coming up in the next half hour, the Money Wheel and our home office computing segment dealing with that ever painful audit. Find out what you can do even in the most unfavorable of circumstances.
That plus business and news headlines right after this. Stay with us.
Dividend reinvestment plans let you buy stocks without a broker. And this guide will get you started. It lists over 800 companies with DRPs and comes with a free issue of the money paper, the DRP authority for the past 10 years. Call free and start saving now.
Call 1-800-621-9191 for your guide to DRPs. This $25 value is only $9. Plus, you get a free issue of the money paper. Satisfaction's guaranteed.
You trade with a discount broker to save on commissions. So let me show why Scottsdale Securities should be your broker. You'd save more than half on this 200-share trade over Schwab. On this 1,000-share trade, Scottsdale is $76 less than Waterhouse. And if you qualify, our new Super Saver account lets you trade any 1,000 shares for just $50. Scottsdale customers deal with their personal brokers in over 35 cities nationwide. Call 1-800-619-SAVE now for a free copy of your guide to commission savings. Member SIPC.
Is the market too high and the danger of a free fall too great, or is a new upsurge on the way? Let's listen to Martin Zweig.
My absolute top priority, bar none, is never to get badly hurt. That's the whole purpose of my 58 key market indicators, which I've been working on for 32 years. They've kept me mainly in stocks during big market rises, and more important, mainly out of stocks during big market drops. I hope you'll let me and my indicators go to work for you now.
The Zweig forecast scored gains of 740% in the last 13 years without even one down year. Try the Zweig forecast risk-free. Call 800-345-4035. As a bonus, we'll rush you the unlisted number to Zweig's hotline, which updates his market strategy at least 3 times a week, plus a gift copy of Zweig's best-selling classic. Call 800-345-4035. Time is important. 800-345-4035. Call now.
And welcome back to this hour of the Money Wheel on CNBC. I'm Ted David.
And I'm Karen Gibbs. Topping our financial headlines, Viacom has increased its bid for Paramount Communications to $10.5 billion, $800 million more than its previous bid. Viacom is offering $107 a share for 50.1% of Paramount, stock for the rest. QVC's latest Paramount bid is worth about $9.9 billion. Chrysler shares are moving higher once again today as the number 3 automaker reports earnings well above Wall Street expectations. Chrysler shares now picking up 1 1/8 to 62 7/8 after trading in the $10 range as recently as 1991. As it had promised last week, Citicorp reported fourth quarter earnings today that were higher than analysts had been looking for. Right now, shares of Citicorp slipping a quarter to 40 7/8. And the number 3 Nations Bank also outdid expectations. It earned $1.37 a share. That's about 6 cents better than consensus predictions. Nations Bank shares, however, off a half at 49 1/4.
And another bank in the news, and hot off the ticker, Wells Fargo out with its fourth quarter earnings, and they are exceeding street expectations. The number coming in $3.18 a share in the fourth quarter compared to 83 cents in the year-ago period. The street was looking for $2.77, so that compares to $3.18, substantially higher. The high end of expectations was $3.08, and it beat that as well. The stock at the moment being rewarded, it is up 3/8 at 136.5, and that, by the way, is, well, it was just a moment ago an all-time high. This may be a case of selling the news. The 52-week high in Wells Fargo, 136 7/8. All right, Los Angeles area residents struggling to put their lives back together after yesterday's earthquake. That top stories in the news at this hour. Commuters are having to maneuver their way through a treacherous highway system this morning. Part of 3 area highways collapsed in the quake. Others were severely damaged. Relief workers are still trying to assess the damage to homes and businesses. Officials say power should be restored to most homes today, but water service could take longer. At least 32 people have died in the earthquake, and rescue workers are continuing their search for more survivors in the rubble. The man President Clinton wants to be next defense secretary has withdrawn his name from consideration. In a letter to the president, the retired Admiral Bobby Ray Inman says he's withdrawing because of attacks on his character and reputation. Inman has scheduled a news conference for 1 p.m. Eastern Time in Austin, Texas. CNBC will carry it live.
As you know,
the government's final report on the Iran-Contra affair says President Reagan set the stage for the illegal conspiracy. The 566-page report also says that Mr. Reagan authorized the sale of arms to Iran in an effort to free American hostages, and that he knew of the subsequent cover-up by his aides. The report also says that when President George Bush was fully aware of the Iran-Contra deal as well. Supreme Court opens the Citadel Military College to women. Supreme Court Chief Justice William Rehnquist has cleared the way for Sharon Faulkner to attend day classes at the Citadel. She'll be the first woman to do so in the college's 151-year history. Mr. Justice Rehnquist set aside the temporary stay he imposed last week without comment. 2 signs this morning that Russia may be backing down from radical economic change. Finance Minister Boris Fyodorov has reportedly resigned. He is the second major reformer to step down since Sunday, and Russia's foreign minister says the country needs to maintain a military presence in the Baltic states to protect Russian interests there. You're up to date. More stories in the news coming up in 1 hour. Karen?
And let's check the stock markets right now. We're seeing a bit of recovery after a higher opening. Let's go to the boards. We see the Dow Jones Industrials picking up almost 6.5 points to 3876.77. Transports at 1824.30, better by almost 1 3/4 points, while the interest rate sensitive utilities gaining 0.79 on the day to 221 even. At the big board, the composite index up 0.64 at 262.95 on volume of 120.1 million shares. The breadth of the market remains positive. 1,064 issues advancing, 714 declining, 728 issues are unchanged. And the broader measures are mixed. Cash S&P 500 at 474.59 is picking up 1.29 on the day. Amex index, however, off by 0.24 to 481.54, and the NASDAQ composite at 791.65, off 0.53 on the day. Looking at the credit arena, the bellwether 6 1/4 long bond up 11/30 seconds to 99 19/30 seconds, yield of 6.28%. March futures are firming to the 115 30 level.
It's a 5-letter word, but to many it has all the connotations of a 4-letter word. We're talking about an audit, and for people who have home offices, audits can spell special concerns, and they get even more special if you never kept records or you lost the ones you had. In the January issue of Home Office Computing magazine, tax attorney Randy Blaustein explains some of the best ways to deal with an audit, even when it comes under the most unfavorable of circumstances. The article is entitled Beat the Audit Blues. It's on page 24. Blaustein says if you're going to be audited, chances are it will be within 12 to 18 months after the IRS receives the return. If you have no records, he says the best you can expect is for the auditor to allow a token number of deductions claimed on your return. But he says with proper planning, you may do a whole lot better than that. And to find out how to do a whole lot better than that, we welcome attorney Randy Bruce Blaustein, tax partner in the New York City accounting firm of Blaustein, Greenberg & Company. He's also author of How to Do Business with the IRS, something that gets a lot of folks nervous, I would imagine.
It sure does, Ted.
When you're dealing with a home office situation in particular and you have no records, first of all, how are they likely to notify you about an audit, and what's the next thing you want to do when they say, here we come?
Well, they're going to notify you of an audit by sending you a letter, of course. But some people, as you said, have no records because they either lost the records or they never kept any records in the first place. So in either case, what you have to do is you have to reconstruct the amount of money that you spent, and then you have to be able to show them at the IRS that what you spent was for a business expense. Now, reconstructing your records doesn't mean that you make up or you fabricate anything. Sometimes you have to go to third parties. You have to obtain an affidavit and get those people to attest to the fact that you paid them money and that what you paid them for was a business expense.
I mean, before we go any further, because this is a point that some other guests have raised, and I know you have probably dealt with both, there's a routine audit, but is it the CID, or what are those three letters, a certain aspect of the IRS?
It's the Criminal Investigation
If
Division.
they contact you, you don't want to play around, immediately get counsel?
Right. If somebody from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division contacts you, that means that they have a sense or a belief that you've committed a tax crime. In that case, you want to be represented by counsel from the inception of the audit.
But in any event, if you're audited and you have a home office and you don't have records, do you want to get a CPA or a tax attorney like yourself?
Well, it depends about the amount of your exposure. Now, if the IRS is questioning you about a $500 charitable contribution and you have the receipt and the documentation, then for the most part, you can go down to the IRS, handle the matter yourself. But if you've claimed a loss on your tax return from a horse race business or for a bad debt deduction because your brother-in-law didn't pay you the money you loaned to him, or you have a large casualty loss, then you would probably want to be represented by a professional.
Are there special concerns for people with home offices and home-based businesses that perhaps don't affect others and that they ought to be mindful of?
Absolutely. The IRS knows exactly where to address its attention. And business entertainment expenses are an item that lots of people with home offices avail themselves of. The IRS takes the position, of course, that all your business meals and your tickets to sporting events, those are personal expenses unless you can prove otherwise. Even the deduction for the home office itself is a target. The IRS wants to see that you can document the cost, the utilities, the rent, the maintenance charges, even the cost of your telephone bills.
What about purchase of computers and software and so on? At what point do you have to start spreading this out over a period of time and depreciating it rather than just taking it off at one?
Well, for the most part, the computer hardware, the computer itself, or any office equipment, right now you are allowed to deduct the first $17,500 of purchases. So for the most part, that's not a problem. Software they introduced under the new tax law, some special rules, you may have to amortize it over a few years.
And real quickly, how many consecutive years in a row, well, that's redundant, but how many years in a row can you take a loss on a home business before they start to get a little antsy?
Okay, the answer to that is very good, very simple rather. You can have a loss every year of your life and still be entitled to the deduction. The key is that you have to intend to make a profit.
I hope our producer, Peter Shacknow, is listening. I hope you heard that, Peter. I hope all of you heard that. We all intend to make a profit, and we thank you very much for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Interesting article in Home Office Computing Magazine. Our guest, Randy Bruce Blaustein, its author. He's also tax partner in the New York City accounting firm of Blaustein, Greenberg & Company. As always, if you have a question or comment, do write to us. The address, Home Office, CNBC 2200 Fletcher Avenue, Fort Lee, New Jersey, 07024.
At its usual intervention time just a few minutes ago, the Federal Reserve, as expected, added reserves, conducting two-day system